England side looked fairly disjointed as they struggled to that 2-0 win over Malta, side that's ranked 171st in the world. There was an own goal early doors and then a second half strike from Harry Kane that was enough to seal the victory, but it was overall a lacklustre performance, Cass. Just to quickly get your thoughts on it. I mean, I think Jim Proudfoot summed it up really well when he was saying if you're ever going to put in a performance like that, you do it when you've already qualified in the qualifiers rather than at the actual major event. So perhaps that's a case of, well, you've got that bad performance out the way. Yeah. Perhaps.
Well, if you talk to any professional footballer that's played the game club level and international, they'll all tell you them bad days, and they were, and you've won a game, you just forget about it. Move on. And it wasn't good. I watched it. It was everything the boys were talking. It was lacklustre. It was slow. They lacked rhythm in their performance. Don't get too caught up in it. Look, it's Malta's big day. They're coming to Wembley. They've got a number of players who play all over Europe, want to prove a point, make it as difficult as they can. England just weren't quite at it. They've qualified comfortably. I don't see the big deal. Some people will argue that, you need to set an example and go and beat these teams 5, 6, 7, 8-0. Gareth won't think like that. He'll be thinking, what didn't work today? What didn't happen? Who came in? A few changes in the team. Why didn't it work or gel so well? He'll be thinking all about that and no more.
Was there anyone that stood out for you that you think...
I think Trent did okay. Phil Foden, again, looked really lively because his burst of pace for the first goal. It gets a deflection and as it was no goal, but, his directness to get in. I sort of... It doesn't surprise me. I played international games like this. I remember playing Luxembourg. I remember playing Iceland, games like that, where you came away 0-0 in Dublin and we'd been playing really well. We had a 0-0 and it was a nothing game, but we'd qualified. We were on the verge of qualifying. And so I never got caught up too much because if you talk to any sportsman, they'll tell you, whether you're a boxer, they'll tell you, I was a bit flat in that fight. Didn't quite get going. That was what England were last night. They were flat as hell. They just looked like a team that needed... Look, how many times you go to a game now and sometimes we say, God, the fans today are quiet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? No one says, them fans are... But fans can be flat. Sometimes players need to lift fans. Sometimes fans need to lift players.
Absolutely.
It was that sort of thing last night.
Although, having said that, I mean, there was a huge crowd at Wembley for a game that effectively was meaningless in terms of qualification. Not meaningless in terms of seeding. We have to remember that for the draw. As England, of course, want to be one of the top seeds, guaranteeing a fairer draw when it comes to the Euros next summer. I think draw against North Macedonia, their first qualifier on Monday, would be enough to guarantee a top seed position for England. So that's obviously what they'll be looking at to finish off the campaign in some style, to at least get a draw, if not obviously better, which you would like to think they might be able to achieve. The problem is, of course, Cass, when you have a performance like that, inevitably questions start.
Absolutely. I get
being thrown around about, is Gareth Southgate the right man to take England forward? Is he going to bring England success next summer? talkSPORT Jermaine Pennant was talking on the Sports Bar last night. This is what he had to say about Southgate.
And I've been saying this for the past year now, when was in question and should Southgate stay, and there was half were saying he's been doing great, got into his final, got into his semi-final. I've always said that's it. He's not good enough to take us over the line. Like I said, we've got some fantastic players, some best English players that I've seen in my time, even on my playing time as well. So I'm sure there'll be some nations, some managers thinking, I would love to inherit what Southgate's got. You know what I'll do with that? But this guy just, nope, I'll have Maguire there. I'll have Henderson sitting there, who's playing in Saudi. I put Rashford on. He will start even though he's bang out of form.
Okay, so that's what Jermaine Pennant had to say about Southgate. I mean, there's no way they're going to make a change between now and the summer because it'd just be a bit ludicrous. And ultimately, Southgate has got the job done in the sense of qualifying. Now, obviously, there's a next step, a next hurdle to overcome by perhaps winning it, which is what England fans will be hoping for next summer in Germany.
Can I just add on that now? There's a couple of things. Why you lose a job as an England manager. If you don't qualify from a group stage, if you don't even get to a tournament, you're going to lose your job. That's inevitable. That just won't, in today's game, that won't happen. If you go to a tournament and you're awful, you'll lose your job. If England go to the Euros next summer and perform terribly, Gareth will not be the England manager. Now, so there's that middle ground now. They've had the semi-final, they've had a final, and then they've had a tournament. They lost to France in penalties. You know, they've had all of that, and a little bit feel unlucky because if you go out on a penalty shootout, it's a harsh way to go out, but that shouldn't determine, you know, how England did in that tournament. And I do feel, I've always said, I want to judge after every tournament. So when England go to the Euros next year and we watch them and you come away and think, maybe Jermaine was right, maybe. But there's also managers who have won things that haven't been winning. You know, Jurgen Klopp got the Liverpool job, okay? He didn't win. He initially got to finals, lost finals, ended up winning things. You know, you can find that success. And England are very, very close to winning something. I've said that to you for ages.
Yeah.
Now, Gareth will get judged with things that go wrong. And if it ends up costing them the tournament and some of his decisions that he makes during that tournament, enough people think Simon Jordan goes on, doesn't he? He doesn't think Gareth's capable of winning the tournament. You know, and I get that point of view. But I still wouldn't say, look, there are people that have won things who haven't initially won, but they've learnt a hell of enough along the way to then find that ingredient. Emi Jackie won 98 World Cup from a team that no one playing at home, no one in France thought he could win it. Everyone was, no way can this guy win. The way his demeanour, the way he acted, some of the results they had, they ended up running riot in a World Cup. They won the 98 World Cup as easy as any team I can remember. And yes, they turned the game around in the semi-final against Croatia after being 1-0 down. But he found a way as a manager from nowhere, from obscurity, ended up winning the World Cup final 3-0.